Hey everybody. So we are almost in the middle of June here in North Texas, and we've had a lot of rain these last couple days actually, which have been good for the garden because June and rain is sometimes hard to do. So the garden's staying alive, and of course the weeds stay alive too. But anyways, I wanted to do just a little tour here of what we've been doing here in the garden, what it looks like. So let me flip the camera around. All right, so here's the cherry tomatoes. I put together very quickly this netting, which isn't my netting that I really want to use long term, but it was just something I had to put up. But basically the cherry tomatoes are climbing all over it, climbing really high too. But they're making these nice sets. It's really kind of pretty, the way the cherry tomatoes grow. They make these nice sets like that in these clusters, and so they as you can probably see, they get ripen at different times, they get bigger at different times, but all this rain is helping. We still got dill, even though the dill's kind of going to seed now. We've got dill that's lasted into June. Doesn't like the heat, but I think it's getting enough shade here, which is great. We've been putting more black plastic down. The biggest issue that I've had in the garden, I'll show you, is the weeds. And it's not really the weeds as much as it's really the grass. So the nice pathway we made with these stones and stuff like that, in Texas we have this St. Augustine grass. And St. Augustine grass, I think, is really more of a weed. And like for instance, this weed here grows as a single stem, a single root, right, kind of thing. And grass normally grows like that if you got, up north or in other places, Kentucky blue and stuff like that. But the St. Augustine grass is a creeper. And so I'll show you. See how this is? It sends out like its tentacles, almost like an octopus, right? It sends out these tentacles that go across the ground and then root in and then turn into grass. Well, that stuff is the hardest stuff to kill because it's not coming up through the ground, it's creeping across. And if there's something that grows 3 feet away, it'll start creeping. And so it really kind of got away with us, and we really got to do some pulling here. The little pathway was getting grass, the St. Augustine, creep up and out in the bare areas. So what I'm doing is using this black plastic now to just put over the ground and kind of kill out the grass underneath. It's the only way we're going to get a control over it. Normally you've seen me just put mulch on there. Well, mulch is only temporary. Yeah, it kills everything underneath, but then if it's creeping along, it creeps along. So that's bad. So what I've done here, as you can, and it's a little messy, so a garden's always messy when you're working in it and pulling weeds and grass and that. But by covering the exposed areas with the black plastic and putting nothing on it, it's helping, right? It's helping keep things, the weeds down. Now, again, it's going to come on the sides or an exposed area, but once we kill that, I think you'll be fine, right? I think we'll then get a handle on it, but it just takes time. Now, here is the loofahs. As I'm walking past, the loofahs have yellow flowers, and they're doing very well, climbing up and over, and they'll be creating the loofah plant here soon. You can see right here, let me see if I can get that angle. Right there was a flower, and now the loofah growing. So that's good. So just like we did yesterday with the arch, training the loofah, the tendrils, to climb over. And so, yeah, it's climbing down. But it's like a monster. It'll grow everywhere. We've had a lot of rain, and so you got to be careful in the gardens here of, I'm going to disturb the mound, but the fire ants, these things bite and it hurts, and you might be allergic to it. So after the rain, these things come all over. So you just got to be really careful of the fire ants in your garden in Texas. Let's look at some of the other things that's going on here, because it's time to harvest a little bit. The tomatoes are growing so well here. This is the first year we've grown tomatoes here in this bed, and you can see, look at how nice those are, right? And look at that big tomatoes. We've never grown that many big tomatoes. Normally the tomatoes we grow are kind of that size, but these are so big, and they're a great variety called the Black Crim, and the picture shows them big, and well, they are. And so that's great. It's a great variety to grow here in North Texas, and the plants are getting so tall. I've tied them up. I've pruned them, and yet, you know, with all the rain, they just keep growing and growing and growing. So it's really nice here. Let me kind of come down this way. You can see some yellow tomatoes too. These yellow tomatoes are this variety here, Lemon Boy. It's a very popular variety, and you can see there's a Lemon Boy right there. And pick it right off. So I'll come back and take that in later. But yeah, and keeping these weed free is, you know, you still got to look for weeds, but you know, definitely much easier to take care of. And while I'm down here, let me get this guy. Let me see if I can pull this guy off. There it goes. And they'll even get a little riper too in the house. You know, give them another day and they'll redden up even more. But okay, so there's that pepper plant, just a standalone. Over here is the eggplant that's growing very well. I got the Japanese style, which are long and thin. So there's the dark and the white varieties. And there's lots of little eggplants that every couple of days, you know, they're growing, which is nice. Here's the peppers, shishito peppers, if you are familiar with these. These are great. It's a Japanese pepper. Every fifth one might be hot, so it's kind of like a Russian roulette for peppers.